Today on the Care to Share podcast, I'm joined by Tom Roberts and Cordelle Cabey from the Dementia Friendly Barbers. Now, these guys are doing some incredible things in care homes. We had a short chat recently and I wanted to share all of that with you guys. There's a lot to be said about the care that is given to people. I'm going to give everything away. I'm not going to say it. You've got your name. It says a lot. I don't want to go into any more detail than that.
It is what it says in your tin, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, exactly right. So, Tom and Cordelle, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having us, EJ. Much appreciated.
No, of course.
Looking forward to getting into things.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one because I do a lot of podcasts about recruitment, for instance, or staff well-being in a way that's like actionable tips for care leaders that they could actually do. This is something that they might not have yet considered, and I doubt they can cut hair. So it's kind of a different,
Well,
different podcast.
I think that's why we exist, isn't it, Tom? It's because they can't cut hair.
Yeah.
We need that specialism. We need that specialist to come into the homes. Tom will go into that in much more detail about how he founded the company, I'm sure, in a little while. Yeah. But yeah, it's a little bit different to actually giving actionable tips. We're a service that comes into the home and does it for them.
Yeah, and you guys are in 100 care homes a month, is it?
Yes, and growing as well. We had an amazing 12 months just gone, and it looks set to be doubling in the next couple of months. And the vision is for us to be in 500 just after summer. So exciting times.
Awesome. Okay, all right. So let's start with the first. Was it a care home that approached you, Tom? Let's start with how that happened.
Yeah. So basically, we set up 5 years ago today, and I was working in a barbershop in Birmingham City Centre. I was running the shop there, and we had a phone call from a care home that's actually was local to where I lived, saying, "Look, it's National Men's Day. Have you got a barber that wants to come and look after the gents in the care home?" So I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." My nan had not long died, and she was living with dementia. So it was something quite close to home. And I just sort of was like, yeah, I'll do it straight away. Went into the home, donated a barber's chair because I had one spare in my house at the time because I was cutting from home as well. Had the first visit. It was really well received by all of the residents and the care home staff. Then moving forward from that, there was like, look, do you want to come back once a month? And I was like, yeah, 100%. So I did that. And then some more care homes, because it got posted about some more care homes from that company, Care UK, got in touch and they wanted me to continue doing the services in their homes. And it just sort of organically grew from there, really, because I was, my end goal as every barber's end goal was to have their own barbershop and, to be having staff working for them and to not do a fat lot and sit at home. Do you know what I mean? But obviously, I still do. Yeah, but I've got the barbershop, and yeah, it's all good. But it's just a better experience for the barbers and for me to be going in, looking after residents that would be forgotten about, and rather than standing behind a barber's chair in my shop all day, cutting the same people day in day out with the same stuff to say. Do you know what I mean? At least you go into the care home, you're making somebody's life better. You're making them feel better about themselves. And yeah, that was it really. It just sort of organically grew. And then me and Cord got in touch and I was like, look, you're in recruitment. Well, you're working in the care sector in recruitment. Is there something we can do together? And yeah, we just sort of did that. We had a bit of a gap in the middle and then came back to it. And now it's over the last 12 months, it's been amazing really, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, really.
So can you tell me about then that first time you went into a Care UK care home?
Yeah.
And you were cutting these men's hair. What was it that struck you about that as that's caused this big shift from what you were doing before?
What do you mean by that? Sorry, what do you mean?
Like you're saying, it's like a better experience for them, but also it's better for you. It's better for you than like talking to the same people in the barbershop that you normally do.
It was obviously more the appreciation like that you get from the residents, like the look, the smiles on the face. It's more how you can see how much they appreciate it. Whereas in a barbershop, you get fussy people, you get all kinds of people in the barbershop, whereas people in a care home, it's just more appreciated by the residents. It's, more appreciated by the families. It's just, and some of them might only be a two all over, but, to them, that's the best two all over they've ever had in their life. Do you know what I mean? And it's different to a hairdresser going in. I say this time and time again, me and Cord do. There's so many care homes and we speak to and they're like, oh, it's a great idea, but we've got a hairdresser. And I'm like, That's a hairdresser. That's for women, and you're not giving them the experience. Like, we're giving them an experience. We're not just going in, getting bobbing for a 5 minute haircut and chucking him out. We're going, right. As soon as you sit in this chair, you're transformed into this barbershop. You've got a board which has got all kinds of old pictures from back when they were younger on. We've got a jukebox in there that plays old music. We've got a hot towel machine where you can give them a hot towel shave. And just the overall experience of a barbershop, whereas, they wouldn't have gone to a hairdresser's 30 years ago, it would have been a barbershop. So we're just recreating that and doing stuff to try and trigger memories. We've got the old music playing, bit of Elvis, Johnny Cash, whatever they like. And it's just more of an experience for them, and it's just nice.
That's awesome. There's so many things in that I want to touch on.
Mm.
I'm going to go with the last thing you said, which was about triggering memories.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any experience with, is it solely people who have dementia whose hair you cut?
No, so it's obviously called Dementia Friendly Services / Dementia Friendly Barbers, but we go into care homes. Not everyone in care homes have dementia. You've got just a normal care floor. A lot of them have 3 floors. You've got your care floors, you've got your dementia floor, etc. And some of them might not. It's just that they just might need help with their day-to-day living situation. But the standout story for me, which is one of the main reasons I continue to do what I was doing, was the first care home that I went to. There was a resident who he was as of age. He'd not left his room for about 4 or 5 months, and he actually founded the hair and beauty warehouse Aston and Fincher. So, and they're massive. They're all over the UK. And he was notified that we were coming, and he came down and left his room because he wanted the barbershop experience, because he wanted his hair cut, because he wanted a shave. And he came downstairs, and he was brilliant. And his family were obviously still own the company, and they were really helpful in regards to me growing the company to begin with, because there was like, we love what you're doing, and they were giving us massive discounts on the chairs because they really believed in the idea. And I think that was a nice one. But then it happens daily. There's loads. There's absolutely loads. But little things like with the banner with the pictures on, they'll sit there and they'll go, "Oh, I had that car."
Mm-hmm.
Or they'll sit there, and if they can't talk properly, they'll smile and point at things, and that's triggering something. Do you know what I mean? It's nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I'd like to know a little bit as well. I want to hear loads of stories, but before I get lost,
we've got plenty of them, EJ. Plenty.
Great. Okay. Look, before we move on to stories, because maybe we'll just do that for the whole episode. I want to know, Cordelle, you'd owned recruitment businesses before, is that right? And you'd been in healthcare and social care. So what caused you to make the pivot, and how's your network helped you with that? Because I think a lot of people obviously think about working in social care as in the most traditional way. You guys are doing something completely different, but you've brought these skills from social care into here. So can you talk me through that?
Absolutely. It was, I think, for me, working in health and social care, obviously, I started off in education recruitment, actually, EJ. So I was recruiting teachers for special needs schools specifically. That company is very successful, still going. My business partner, Tony, runs that company now. So I exited from Colmore Education Recruitment, went into health and social care, started looking after children's homes, and then that evolved, as it does, doesn't it? It evolves into kind of all health and social care environment. So I ended up working with some of the biggest care providers in the country, and I think what happened is I became a little bit disillusioned with care. I think there was a difficult time. It was just after COVID when I was kind of just looking at leaving health and social care, and I think it just so much had happened, and the care staff had been absolutely wonderful. But I just think there were so many issues within the workforce in health and social care, and this is why you exist, I suppose, EJ. It's important around retention and onboarding. I think there was such a gap there. There was so much I wanted to achieve in health and social care recruitment, which I just couldn't achieve. I couldn't affect the change that I wanted to affect. So Tom's been a good friend of mine for a long time. And when he was talking about Dementia Friendly Barbers, he says, "Look, we're in a handful of homes." He says, "I think I'm doing some great work here, Cord. And, it looks like we could really achieve something together if we joined forces." So I really started pondering it more. I was like, well, actually, do you know what? I started maturing, I think. And it was like, well, what do I want my legacy to be? What kind of impact do I want to have on this earth, I suppose? And you ponder those questions more, don't you, as you get older? How can you affect change? So it became less about making money and more about making memories and providing memories for those that were suffering with dementia. So we teamed up, and it was very much it went from 0 to 100 really quickly. Tom had done a great work in laying the foundations of the company, and for me, it was a case of coming in with more of I'd worked in social care, I'd run businesses. Tom obviously had his barbershops, etc. But I was like, right, well, we've got a great service that we're offering. How do we give this to more gents on a bigger scale? And so it was about, right, let's start speaking to head offices as opposed, because Tom was only one man and he could only do so much, obviously, with the running of his own businesses. Yeah. I donated all my time, basically. I said, right, I'm completely out of recruitment. I can dedicate my entire day for this. I'll work for free.
You worked for free for a year, didn't you?
It was. So I worked for free for 12 months. So I said to Tom, look, I can work for free for 12 months because I believed in. When you believe in something, EJ, I suppose you've been saying for you as a founder, is that you know how it goes, and if you see the bigger picture of the vision, then you'll do whatever's necessary to make it happen. And so I think it was really important, and me and Tom really sat down and we looked at every part of the business and how we could make it better, how we could make it that absolute gold standard service for gents, because at the end of the day, that's all that really mattered, was how can we give the best experience possible to gentlemen living in care. But not only that, then we looked at the flip side of that and said, well, how do we support businesses? How do we support these care homes in attracting new perspective?
Of course. Yeah.
And start looking at that as a business and an offering. So we had to say, well, actually, we need to look at an ROI. So we look at return on investment for this now. So yes, sure, we're giving an experience, but then how do we provide a service to the care home whereby we're saying, actually, we're adding value at every layer here of the business. So right at the top. And so we started looking at partnerships, and that's really where it grew and it transformed the business, and it took it to the next level.
That's really interesting, looking at it from like a ROI perspective. And I suppose that's exactly where your recruitment skills came in.
It has its benefits, doesn't it, EJ? I just think you need to, the service is one thing. And like I said, that's why we exist, is because the absolute fundamental aspect of the business is we're providing a service for gents, and it's universally loved and accepted. But we also have to look at what are we giving to these businesses that want to attract more men into homes. Do you know what I mean, Tom? We noticed that, and Tom can tell you this, when we first went into care homes, there was only maybe 3 or 4 gents living in each care home when Tom first started operating. Now the average number is, we speak to care homes now and they say, well, we've got 12 or 13 gents living with us.
That sometimes, mate. Do you know what I mean? We've got the one I working in Leeds. It's like predominantly male. I think there's 120 bed care home, the one, and it's got like 80, 90 blokes in it, which is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have any instinct as to why there are more men in care homes now than there were before?
I don't think that for me, I don't know about Core, but for me, I don't think it's that there's necessarily more. There is more people living in dementia, but not significantly more. I think it's more recognised, and people are going, my dad's got dementia. And all the going to the doctors and they're saying, yeah, it's dementia. I don't think it's, blokes would stay at home for as long as they could. They wouldn't want to go into care or, I think it's more spoken about now, and people are realising actually that's what this disease is. It's not just my dad's just forgetting my name.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? I think that's one of the key things for me, I think, is.
And also, I think, because that's spot on, is yes, it's men. We put it down to forgetfulness. Many years ago, my granddad's forgetful, and that would be it, really.
Yeah,
I think men, the population is aging now, and so more men are living longer. Life expectancy for men has gone up, which is great. But from a social care challenge perspective, how do we address that growing demand on social care, really? So more men now are going into care homes as a byproduct of men living longer. Yeah. So I think we've definitely seen numbers. Even I've seen numbers in the 18 months that I've been operational in the business. I was having conversations right at the start, and there was 4 or 5 gents, and now it's an average of 8, 9, 10, 11 gents. And so I've seen a transformation in just 18 months. I've seen a shift in the numbers of gents, which is why our services have in the last 12 months have been more important because I think businesses have to pivot. When you've got a predominantly female demographic, you cater for predominantly females in your care home. But what's happened is when that shifts, you have to be like, well, actually, as a business, how do we market ourselves? How do we attract our potential men into our homes, etc.? And one way of that is by offering services dedicated to men, which is why I think we've seen the business grow as it has in the last 12 months.
Yeah, it's like, I always think of it with like shampoos and shower gels. And the female shower gels, and they have like 8 really specific products, and men is like 10 in 1.
That's the one.
And it's like,
that is such
it's
a
like
analogy.
a strong colour, and like, and it's like, yeah, I'll use that.
Do you know what? My shower gel, it allows me to wash my hair. It acts as shampoo, conditioner, a body wash.
Yeah.
I won't be surprised if it'll be toothpaste soon as well.
Mine does.
That's you need to tell me what brand that is.
Yeah. That's class.
Brilliant.
That's class.
And because I remember, like you told me before, one of the care providers, or it might even be more than one, they'd say something like they're willing to spend $1,000 a week on hairdressers. They don't need barbering, and it's just a fact of like they hadn't considered this because they had such a female focused workforce as well as demographic of residents as well.
That's it, is that business development. And I remember phoning Tom, I remember straight after the call, didn't I? I phoned you really, really frustrated. And I just said, I spoke to the care home, and I phoned, and they're a really big provider in this country. And so I remember I had some great success with some of their other homes. And I just remember it really stood out to me. It's like I phoned the home and I just said, look, I explained what the service was. I remember the response was, well, we already spend a small fortune on women's hairdresser coming in, and she does the gents, so we don't really see a need for you to spend, because it works out basically we charge at a specific work in comparison to what's spent on hairdressers. It's minimal, isn't it, Tom?
Oh yeah, and remember it's once a month as well. Do you know what I mean? It's not like 2-3 times a week like the hairdressers are going. It's once a month. That's it.
And she just says, I don't see a need. I don't still spending that money.
But you only have to walk into these care homes and walk into the salons, is what they call them, salons, because it's a ladies' salon. And you just look pictures of women on the walls. It's feminine. The whole environment is feminine, so it's like, which is why we bring stuff to make it masculine for when we go in there. The hairdressers aren't doing that. They're not going in with their rollers and saying, let's put a roller band and put a jukebox on. Do you know what I mean? They're just going, right, let's squeeze this gent in between doing a blue rinse and do you know what I mean? It needs to be a day specifically for the males, which is what we've been saying to people for ages. And a lot of care homes do it. Like, where were we? A sanctuary care home last week, was it?
Yeah, last week.
One of the care home staff, she was wicked. She brought all the gents down. She'd put them in a room together, got them all a beer, and they were all just sat there having a natter. And one by one, I came out the shop, grabbed one, brought him in, looked after him, brought him back, and it was just, that's how we want it to be. We don't want it to be, right, hairdressers in today, everyone going one by one. You want to have it as an experience, something for them to look forward to every month. And people with dementia and people in care homes want a routine. There's no routine. Their only routine for the gents is getting up, getting them showered, feed them, stick them in front of a TV. Give them a routine of once a month and going and getting a haircut and a shave with a male. That's wicked, do you know what I mean? To me, I think it's brilliant. This is why we've been doing it for so long.
And like, what's really interesting, especially with men, right? And this is why I think it's so, because what I don't think would be half as impactful is if you just made the salons more, if you diluted the feminine energy of the salon and made it more like say gender neutral, because it's just not the same experience, right? And as far as like self-care goes, or like, aesthetic work, men don't do much. Like, we really don't do much. Like, you only have to look at any company that sells clothes. Like, men don't buy as many clothes. We just don't spend the same kind of money. But hair, hair, we take care of our hair. If we do anything, it's our hair and maybe our shoes.
Absolutely. And I think that's such an important point that you mentioned, is that men, so we coined the phrase barbatherapy, and I think for us a therapist, our barbers do a wonderful job in acting as therapists when our gents are in our chairs. It's about creating that environment where men feel comfortable enough to come in, sit down, whether they have dementia or not, and they feel they're in a safe space, and a space that they're used to, an environment that they remember and they feel comfortable in. You know, we need to remember we're cutting the hairs of 80 or 90-year-olds, and they've been going to barbers since they were maybe 5 years old. You know, my son was going to barbers since he was 2 or 3.
Same.
When they get to an age where they can no longer look after themselves and they're taken into care, what happens then is that thing that service that they've been used to for 60, 70 years is overnight taken away from them. Now, how can we deem that okay? If for example, if we put the shoe on the other foot and it was women coming into care, and then we said to a lady, actually, do you know, you're not going to have a salon here in the care home. You're actually going to be cut by a barber.
Yeah.
When you put the shoe on the other foot,
it wouldn't happen, would it?
That would not be acceptable. It wouldn't be acceptable. So for us, what I say is I try and explain, well, why would you remove such a it's such a key part of a man's identity.
Yes.
Is that barbershop visit and that being a barber and getting a nice haircut and a nice shave and just talking to gents as opposed to women.
So funny, man. I remember going to my barbershops where I grew up. I lived there till I was like 18 or something, right? And I remember I used to, at first, my mum used to like drop me off and wait outside. That was my space to go into a social space with guys, right? And then I'd like go in with my older brother, and then I'd eventually go in myself. And it was so much learning I was doing in this male environment that I had nowhere else. I was on a football team for a little bit when I was a kid, but not for long. Like learning about like social dynamics and how to like treat other blokes. It was really formative for me. I loved it. They put a picture of one of my haircuts up outside their front window. I was like,
that is the gold standard.
I know, I was gutted when my hair fell out. I was like. But even now, my son, he's 4 now, and I've got a 2-year-old. And at first, I'd cut their hair, and then I'd take them to the barbers. But like, I'll be honest, my local barbers, they're very much an in-out business. Yeah. So like, I take him out of necessity. Yes. But I know the barbershop up the road. It's a bit further up the road. It's a bit more of a logistical thing. That will be important when I'm taking him there. This one, but it still has to be me. Like it's a thing for my like an environment that my sons aren't going to get elsewhere. You know, for instance, in school, like 90% of teachers will be female, so all of the teaching will be somewhat biased, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. But there's no environment yet where he has that, and I know it's formative for him. So I can only imagine, another 70 years down the line with him, or 50 or so with me, what that will mean to be in a barbershop again and be in that environment with, because also what we don't like as men generally, you don't often sit and just talk. Like you're often like the guy in the chair is doing nothing, and they have the mirror for any like eye contact. Yes. But they don't have to like sit and try and have this conversation. There's so much in there for guys, isn't there?
Absolutely. And that is exactly why it's, it is barber therapy. And the care homes that we work in have always said, they say we love the term because our barbers, they see themselves as therapists. Or we incorporate music therapy into what we do. So like Tom touched on earlier, is that we play the music from the 60s, 70s, 80s. It's part of music therapy and it's great for cognition, etc. And then the visual therapy of seeing pictures from yesteryear and stuff like that. But then the most important part of that is the barber and that human interaction and having that person standing behind you, a barber, giving you that hot towel shave, that clean shave. It's such an important part of that experience for us, and it's something that we really pride ourselves on. Yeah. It's bringing back that human connection into homes.
What I've found as well is when we're say we start a new care home and we've not worked there before, you often find that they have been getting half a job from the hairdressers, and they don't need to start cussing the hairdressers or whatever. You get into the care home and there's hair that's growing from about here to about here, and the hair's that long, and it's just not presentable. And you've got it down the side here because they don't know what they're doing with shaving or anything. They just know like, I can give them a quick haircut and I'll try and trim under their beard.
Yeah.
You know, I was a hairdresser to start off with. Like, I trained at Tony and Guy, and I know what the training is, and their hairdressers do not get trained in beards or anything like that whatsoever. I know that for a fact because I was never trained on it. I only learned it through deciding actually I want to be a barber after qualifying, and that's when I learned it. So I know full well that when they're getting a gentleman in the chair, and they say they're like, can you give him a quick shave? I know that they're missing loads of hair and they're panicking and they're probably just trying to get it done as quickly as they can. Whereas with us, it's more of a thorough process and it's what they're going to be used to. And, you know, touching on what you said about, is it everyone with dementia? Some of the residents that don't have dementia will try and use a cutthroat blade on them if we feel like they'll be able to sit through it. And like, if we feel it's safe. If we don't feel it's safe, then we'll do it slightly different. We'll do it with the machine, do it with the foil so it is bald, and then still give them the hot towel experience, but with a cutthroat without the blading. So they're still feeling like they're getting that experience. Are the hairdressers doing that? I can guarantee they're not. Do you know what I mean? So it's completely different.
I think like that's one thing I really love about what you do is the theatre that you create around it. To go, okay, we're not, for safety, we're not going to use this cutthroat razor, but we're going to still give you that experience.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's an important part. I think that's a really good word that you know that you've mentioned, EJ, is theatre, because for much of it is, you know, it's about that experience. And I know we've said it numerous times in this conversation already, but I think it's such an important part is that you just don't get that experience with a hairdresser. Yeah. And the amount of men that, you know, we had a care home the other week, and the home warned us before the gentleman came down. They said, look, he's prone to lashing out, getting aggressive. He had advanced dementia, and so that comes with the territory, unfortunately. Now, that gentleman, there was a lot of nerves around him coming down and coming in and sitting down in this chair. And Tom was cutting the hair, and straight away this gentleman just came in. He sat down. He was looking at pictures. He was listening to the music. The Johnny Cash was playing. And he just sat straight down. And when Tom was getting, you know, doing underneath there, he knew what to do instinctively. He lifted his neck. These things are they become instinct to men.
Yeah, 100% instinct.
You know, when you feel a man, you know to turn and get it's all instinctive. And so he was relaxed as any of the gents that we'd seen that day. There was no sign of dementia in that regard in terms of the lashing out, etc. And that is all down to the experience. Is, you know, it's like I said, it becomes involuntary almost in terms of how you react. And I'm just not sure that would have happened if it had been a hairdresser cutting his hair and trying to quickly get him in the chair and hold him down. Do you know what I mean?
It's all about making them feel comfortable, and the experience that we're giving them before even getting the scissors off the side automatically makes them feel comfortable. We know what we're doing, so we feel confident in what we're doing. That makes them feel comfortable. If a hairdresser's going thinking, oh God, what am I going to do here? They're going to sense it. You're going to sense it, and you're going to not feel comfortable. We're all about making them feel comfortable and making sure we can give them the best service possible, and that's what we do.
That's really interesting. Like, this is kind of loosely connected, but I love that thing you do with music. To help trigger memories and make them feel comfortable. There were these studies done. This is more on like a sales thing now, but there were these studies done in wine shops. And if they played French music, more people bought French wine. If they played German music, more people bought German wine.
Wow.
And when they asked the people that left the shop about what they bought, none of them knew that was why they did it. But there was something subconscious going on that just made them feel like familiar with or more fond of that wine coming from that region. Wow. And so I can only imagine, like, when you're playing the music that these guys have loved and maybe had, like, maybe they are great. Like, everyone's got that summer soundtrack. And here's another thing. If you want to sell to somebody, or you find out that demographics music they were listening to when they were between like 14 and 16 years old. Yeah. For me, it would be like Chelsea Dagger, Fratellis, all that lot, like a lot of like grime tracks. You find that music and I love whatever it is because that's got its place. So I can only imagine like the effect that's having on these people, because gosh, it's not like they're going to just hear that on the radio.
No, No, they're not. They'll put in the care homes, and this again, I must stress that this is no disrespect to any care homes that we don't work in. Care homes do a wonderful job across the
Yeah,
board
they
in
do.
terms of caring for. It's so hard to care for people with dementia. We see it day in, day out, and so what the carers, what the home managers, what everyone does, that is wonderful. It's just they need what we're trying to show them is the ability to look. Let's start looking at men more now. And CQC touched on it, the amount of times that CQC inspectors have mentioned us in terms of what we're trying to do around building a male community in care homes. All these things are being touched on now, and they're really starting to be highlighted. So for us, it's really important. So I just wanted to obviously emphasize the fact that we do, care homes do a great job. And
Yeah,
so
we're not just
do you know
they
what I
do a
mean?
great job.
It's just
Yeah,
what
I
we're
get
trying
it.
to do is try and change some of the biases that exist in care homes currently, and that's through no fault of the care homes.
Yes.
It's through demographics and what the people that they've cared for.
Yeah. And from a business perspective, I know you get it. It's like if that's what your main demographic is, that's where the most impact can be made. And when the demographic changes, you make the changes with it.
Exactly.
And also, like, as well, another thing is that we are beginning to get more men working in social care. A role like this is one of the rare situations where a man professionally is nurturing towards another man.
Yeah.
Like, you might have like your football coach or something might be like nurturing in a sense, but it's not like overtly caring. It's more about like pushing you to be in discomfort so that you achieve the thing you want to achieve, not bringing you to comfort and letting you talk about your life or something. There aren't many scenarios in our society where men are nurturing. And that we go to be nurtured. And this is such a nice way, I think, for also more men just to be working in care.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we love to see it is that we see more male carers, etc. But we believe in creating your own niche. And we see companies now that go in and provide activities in care homes. You see more around kind of armchair activities. There's some great people do some great work in the care home space now that are really innovating. There's quite a lot of men doing that are coming into care homes with their companies and they're setting up. And it's great to see that we're starting to innovate. And I feel like for a long time there's been a lost generation. It's always been difficult, hasn't it, bridging that gap between our generation and their generation.
Yeah.
And so being able to bridge that gap, I was having a conversation about steam trains in a care home in Barony Lodge last week, a sanctuary care home. And I was just blown away because it was the ability for two generations to connect on. I love steam trains. I just think they're wonderful when I've seen them. And I remember speaking to a gentleman, and he worked on the railways in the Northwest for the best part of 50 years as an engineer. And so for us to be able to sit there and have a conversation about steam trains, and he was telling me all about the intricacies of a steam engine and etc. I just think that's special. And if we can get more men coming into care, more young people coming into care, it's truly wonderful to sit down. And I said to Joe Swan, who's the head of business in the Northwest for Sanctuaries, she's a big believer in us, and she says it was so wonderful, just seeing you guys sitting there and talking. And I says, I just don't want to go home, Joe. I could spend all day in a care home, just listening to stories. And I just hope that more young people start choosing social care as a sector that they want to work in, and to be proud to be working in that sector as well. I think it's really important.
I've been that's been like my submission while I've been founding Progresso. I see it coming as well. Like, I see the aging population, I see the declining birth rate, and like we need to do something here. And I really want to get younger people into care. And I think like barbers is just such a nice, because it's not like a care specific role either, but it's a nice bridge into getting younger people into care, like you said. I think that's really good. And so, I mean, let's do more stories, right?
Yeah.
So I know you told me before, sometimes you get big reactions from the families as well when they see the work you do in these guys' hair.
Yeah. So Dan, for example, he's one of our newest barbers, and he actually worked at my barbershop as well, but he decided he wanted to work in the care homes full time because he covered a shift as a favour, and he actually really enjoyed it. And he's he's a bit of a shy person. He's autistic, and he just absolutely flourishes in that situation. He's a completely different person working in the care home to what he is when he's working in the barbershop. Completely different. And he, when I first started him on his first training day, we was in Leeds. And I'm going to talk a little. I'm going to probably blabber a little bit here, but when we was working that first care home in Leeds, there was a gentleman, and he said he shaved him and stuff, and he said the way he touched his face, it reminded him of his granddad. So it sort of connected with him a little bit more so working with people with dementia. So when he does go into these care homes now, it's been a bit of a trigger for him. So it makes him a little bit more empathetic towards the situation, etc. Anyway, so when he did his first day on his own, the amount of feedback that he got from the families on Facebook was ridiculous, weren't it, Cord? It was Tanglewood. It was just, and he kept sending me. He was like, look at this, WhatsApping me, and he was like, I feel famous, like, because he was getting so many different families and relatives saying, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. My granddad loved this today. It's a beautiful service.
Yeah.
And the amount of feedback that we get on Facebook, especially with Tanglewood, they post a lot on Facebook with what's going on. It's just really nice to see, and it's so encouraging for Dan, who's been working at a barbershop and he's not really flourished it as much as some of the other barbers have in the shop, to then go in and doing this and feeling good about himself, getting this great reception from families. It's just nice. It's nice to see him so happy. He's always struggled with being late to work, and it's been like painful with him being late to the shop. He's driving 3 hours to care homes and turning up early. Do you know what I mean? And I'm just like,
Yeah.
And it's annoying because I'm like, how are you doing this, like, and turning up to a care home 3 hours away early, and you can't turn up to the barbershop on time at 9 o'clock, and you live 5 minutes around the corner. But like, it clearly shows that actually this is something that he enjoys doing. He enjoys working with the elderly. It's nice. It's nice to get feedback off the families, and it's just, it's wicked for him.
I think as well, and that's a really, I think families, in the decision making process as to when someone goes into care, the families play a pivotal role in making that decision for their loved one. So an important part of getting feedback and collating that feedback for care homes and getting the buy-in from the families is a really important part of what we do. Allowing for families to see the transformation. We was in a care home a couple of weeks ago again, and the woman, there was a daughter, and her dad was in, I think he was like at 98.
Was this Porthaven?
Yes, yeah. And the wife was living with him in the home, and he had never been to a barber since he'd been there, etc. His hair was all over the place.
Yeah, beard was all over the gaff.
Beard was everywhere. He looked like mine, to be honest, through no fault of his own. I do this on purpose, believe it or not.
He didn't look that bad, mate.
No one looks as bad. But it was very much, that chance. The wife came in and sat with him and watched the experience, and it was such great feedback that we received. The daughter-in-law was just like, this is so amazing. We can't wait for you to come back next month. The wife was very stiff upper lip, and she was like, no, we weren't expecting to get great response.
But she loved it.
And she did. So that's what happened, is that she actually said, I love it. She said, he looks wonderful. And even the daughter-in-law was like, what? Like, you've complimented your husband.
There was another one as well last week at Sanctuary, weren't that? And that the daughter of one of the residents came in and saw me looking after her dad, and she got really teary about it, didn't she? You said, and apparently she was like, it's just lovely to see, and she got teary record about it.
Yeah, she actually said, I remember vividly, she was like, I've got goosebumps just from seeing him smiling and enjoying his time in the chair.
Yeah, it was nice, wasn't it? It's just what makes it all worth it, everything that we do. And some of the setbacks with care homes and say we don't need you, and you're like, okay, well, it's still going to be well received somewhere else. Do you know what I mean? And it's nice. It's nice to see the gents being looked after, and the families being well received with it.
That's awesome. You guys are doing some like really great work, and it's not something that you'd it's not the first thing I'd think of when I go, right, how do I look after somebody in a care home? But as you talk about it, you just go, of course, it makes so much sense. That's awesome. So look, where should where can I point people towards if they hear this and they think I want some barbers in my care home?
Absolutely. DementiaFriendlyBarbers.co.uk is the website. But if you just reach out to us on LinkedIn, me and Tom are both very operational on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you just want to indicate to myself or to Tom that you're interested in having us, there's a submission form on the website that you can submit your details, and either myself or one of the other team will be in touch with them. But yeah, just reach out to one of us. There's no care home that we won't go to. We can cover the length and breadth of the country. We work in care homes as far north as Leeds and Newcastle, and as far south as we've done Southampton and Portsmouth.
And now we're looking at Scotland as well, aren't we?
We're just in conversations with Scotland to branch out to Scotland. And obviously, we've got a new potential partnership happening in the States, down the west coast of America,
Awesome.
on the horizon. So we can cover anywhere, mate.
Yeah.
Global.
Great.
We don't turn anyone down. Turn anyone down.
If you want your gents looked after in a care home, then Dementia Friendly Barbers will be there to look after them.
This is awesome. All right, thank you guys. This was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. This is a good chat.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been nice.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Yes, appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Thanks a lot.